All right, guys. Our next guest is set to take on Jan Blachowicz at UFC 239 as he makes his official light heavyweight debut, a former Strikeforce and UFC middleweight champion, as well as the face of Ralph Lauren Polo Blue, Luke Rockhold himself. Luke, welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you today, man?
I'm doing well, boys. Just eating good, getting ready.
I know, because when you were going to go down to Melbourne, we were going to make a very nice dinner reservation for you, and that was back when you were doing the whole middleweight thing. So I imagine being at light heavyweight, you never have to think about another cut to 185. That's got to be pretty liberating, right?
I've never felt better. We're going to have to go back down to Makes me want to go fight back in Melbourne, one of the best restaurant cities in the world.
Well, if you want us to make another dinner reservation for you, Luke, you just have to ask, Submission Radio, part-time Luke Rockhold restaurant reservation team.
Hey, give me a damn sure I'm coming out this next after this fight. This summer calls for an Australian trip.
100%. It's almost like tradition at this point. We saw a picture of you and Matty Matheson on Instagram. He's not really a nutritionist now, is he?
he's doing my next fight camp. He's getting me ready for light heavyweight.
That's
I'm
good.
bulking up.
It's good. Yeah, you'll get some. You'll be covered in tattoos now, right? Like him.
End up at super heavyweight by accident.
Fucking covered up from the neck down, moving up to heavyweight.
Yeah, that's it. How did you end up meeting Matty Matheson? I'm actually a huge fan of his stuff on Munchies. I love his cooking style. How did you end up meeting him? Were you at a fancy restaurant and he just happened to be there?
No, we had like a dinner. Me and Pat Tenor from Ruka, good friend of mine, and Matty. They're working together, and so we had to organize a dinner. We had some training together over at the Ruka gym in OC and Newport, and we had dinner together. Matty's a legend. He's one of the greatest humans around. Really, really good dude.
He seems like a good dude, but the question is, did he cook for you? Did he cook for you, or you guys were just hanging out at another restaurant?
Bastard didn't cook for me yet, so he's got some work to do for me. He was my water boy for my sparring sessions with that week. So he's promised to keep me hydrated for this next fight. I think we're gonna work him in the corner.
Wow, I want to see him at an open workout for UFC 239. And the last time you've been on and been kind enough to join us, you've sort of been recovering physically. Tell us, Luke, how's the body and the knee doing? Is everything back to 100%?
I'd say it's pretty much there. It's getting there. I'll be back resume full training next week. I pushed it a little bit, and so I ended up taking a step back from the recovery time, and so I'm getting to that 100% realm. And I haven't kicked in probably 6 months really. So I'm excited to go out there and start taking some livers next week.
I'm just curious because, the kicks, that's going to be the big thing, right? Because your kicks are awesome. You're known for your kicks, and I'm sure you want to use them in this fight, UFC 239. Are you concerned about sort of getting them back into your arsenal? And will we still see, I guess the question is, will we still see the same sort of Karate Kid Luke Rockhold when it comes to UFC 239 with his flying kicks? Or do you anticipate there's going to be a change to your game because you want to avoid re-injuring the same stuff?
I got to be a little careful. I'm not going to lie. That the whole shin wound and everything I went through with that, it's been a fucking ordeal. I've been having to kind of train my skin and kind of torturing my leg, kind of treating that as best I can, toughen that up. So we'll see how it holds up. I have a lot of confidence now. I think given the time frame in Madison Square Garden when we're supposed to fight, I think my leg would have just opened up like a big vagina. So I'm glad
that's the problem when you Luke Rockhold. There's a lot of that happening.
We didn't make it to that dance. Weird. Awkward. No, but I feel good, man. I have my strength like I had back in in the early days of Strikeforce. It's different, man. I've been depleting myself, and I've had to kind of change my game. And when I get down to those lower 200 realms, I just don't feel as strong. And here, it's different. I'll be moving forward, and guys are gonna feel every shot I throw. It's gonna be different. I'm gonna move forward. And I'm gonna put people on their back and throw holes through them.
I was going to say, I saw a video of you throwing body shots on Instagram, and you look incredibly powerful. So do you actually feel a lot stronger now compared to when you were at 185?
I do, and I'm 220 plus, and I've never really implemented any weight training in my game plan really, and I've never really had the room to gain, and this is different now, and it feels right. I'm fucking pumped to get back in there and swing.
We're pumped as well. Now, obviously, your fighters with Jan. Tell us, how did this fight come about? Was he the guy you originally wanted? Because we know, like Anthony Smith, he's been very outspoken about you lately, saying he wants to fight you at the first opportunity. Was he actually offered you that fight to take instead of Jan?
I asked for the fight right off the bat. They were trying to finalize a Corey Anderson over there. I couldn't get that. He didn't want to take the fight there. I tried to get the fight. He wouldn't take it with me, and they needed somebody.
He didn't think it was going to do anything for him, Luke.
What's that?
Corey. He wasn't that keen on fighting you. He didn't think the fight with you was going to do much for him.
Alexander's not going to do it. Who the fuck does Corey Anderson think he is? I mean, the problem is he is nobody. That's why he's not getting any respect. Fight somebody that's going to give you some recognition. That's what you need. So anyway, on from him. I wanted to fight Corey. I want to fight anybody that could at the top of the game here in the States. As much as I like traveling, I wasn't into it, and so I needed an opponent here, and the available guys were Corey. I was trying to get Anthony, and then Dominic Reyes, and then they didn't want any of that. I mean, they tried to get the Corey. Obviously, we lost Anthony. They didn't want the Dom. They wanted to move him slowly, I guess, and so I ended up with Jan Blachowicz. Blachowicz is a tough dude, and so took the fight. Here we go.
Just on Anthony, what exactly happened with that fight? Was it because he wasn't interested in fighting you at the time, or was it that the UFC just would have preferred to have him fight Gustafsson?
I think they just needed somebody to go fill the Stockholm card, and Anthony would be their bitch, so they sent him out.
Anthony, he was pretty animated during that press conference. I know in another interview with Luke, I believe he said you didn't really quite get to watch it, but look, what did you make of, I guess, how much passion he had when he was sort of talking about you and wanting to sort of punch you and fight you? And we kind of never really seen Anthony get so excited and riled up about anybody. And this is a guy that's fought Jon Jones.
The guy's been in the in the spotlight. He's got his first taste of the main spotlight. I don't know, what is it, like 2 fights now he's had, with actually any recognition. So I think he's just not used to, obviously, being there, doesn't know how to handle himself, and that's what it really comes down to. The guy's a rookie, and he just can't take the truth. I always tell the truth. People don't like the truth. Love it or hate it, I'm gonna fucking tell it. I told him, said what he is. He ain't gonna survive. He's gonna lose to Gustafsson, and he's gonna be non-existent. That's what it is.
Would he still be on your radar after this Jan Blachowicz fight, or would you sort of feel like you've kind of, I guess, moved on from that fight?
I'm going to go put Jan away, and I'm going to move forward. And Anthony's moving backwards, so I don't foresee a matchup.
The division's very, I suppose, interesting at the moment. Luke, lots of opportunities to move up quickly. If you do get this win over Jan, and the UFC offered you an opportunity to fight Jon Jones if he wins at UFC 239, would you be willing to sort of take that fight in your sort of second fight at 205, or would you want a couple more warm-up fights before you moved up and fought the champ?
You think I wouldn't be willing?
Well, I've seen you get on a camel in Perth to promote your fight with the fight with Robert Whittaker, so I think you'd do anything.
I'd jump on that opportunity in a heartbeat. I've been training as Jon Jones for DC so many years, and I know his style, and I like what we have here. So I'm gonna go focus on what I'm doing here this summer, and everything works out. Me and Jon will be dancing.
Has the UFC
late year or 2020?
Wow. Has the UFC given you any indication as far as your, I guess, career trajectory? Have they said, look, if you get this win over Jan, you might be next in line?
Well, Thiago Santos just got a world title fight after beating Jan Blachowicz, so
Of course.
I feel like I go out there and put a performance on. What's to deny me? What else is there? These guys are scouring around, not taking fights. So I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna perform and do my job, and I'm gonna let the chips fall where they may.
I got to ask, and we'll talk about Jan in just a second, but what sort of problems do you think you sort of pose to Jon Jones as far as, a matchup? Because a lot of people like the idea of you coming to this division because, you're a fresh face and you're someone that people can get excited about, when you eventually do fight Jon Jones. What kind of problems do you think you pose for him?
Why don't you ask DC what kind of problems I face for him?
I would, but
I can strike with him.
DC's not here right now.
I can strike with him. I'm no slouch in the wrestling game. Trust me, with the size I have now, it's different. And I'm gonna give a lot more power. I'm gonna bring it on the feet. And I don't believe there's a man in this game that can fuck with me on the ground. When you start implementing punches and grappling, there's no one. I don't believe there's anybody who can dance in that realm.
Mm. It's interesting because obviously you'll be fighting on the same card as Jon. What do you sort of anticipate fight week being like? You guys obviously being around each other a lot, UFC 239. Do you imagine it'll be awkward? He seems to be a guy that kind of follows these kinds of comments. Do you imagine he'll approach you and say some stuff to you? What are you sort of envisioning here?
Anytime you're meeting somebody at the top, you guys are going to get after each other. Me and Jon never had a problem, but we've never been in the same division. So we'll see. I'm gonna focus on Jan Blachowicz. How do you say it? How do you even say his last name?
Casper's Polish, so he's got it for you.
I don't know.
Yeah, Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah.
It's all right. Many have tried. Even I fail sometimes, so it's all good.
Yeah. So looking forward to it. Fight week, July 6th. We're full steam ahead.
A couple more questions
from the card. The whole card sounds fun.
Oh, for sure. It's going to be a very exciting card, and we can't wait to see you on there. Just a couple more questions before we get to Jan. Obviously, Jon Jones has been trying to it looked like he called out Israel Adesanya at some point on social media, sort of going back and forth, talking about Israel and fighting him. What was your reaction to that, especially considering Israel is a guy that is in your former division of middleweight and just won that interim title?
I think Israel had an amazing performance, but he's still got a long ways to go, man. There's guys like Yoel in front of him that are, and Robert Whittaker, which is the true champ, man. People have to understand. I mean, that was a great performance he had, but the champ is still there. There's still a few guys ahead of him, so he's got a ways to go. And I think Jon's just looking for anything that can get traction. Jon's he's in a dead pool up there. There's not a lot of fish in the pond, and so I think he's just struggling, he's trying to pick off these easy fights. He's trying to make people relevant like Anthony Smith. I don't know. He's trying to pick off style matchups. So that's my belief.
Who are you? I know you didn't end up fighting Robert Whittaker, but you did spend a whole camp preparing for him. So based on what you know about the guy and what you saw from Israel, who are you leaning towards when they inevitably fight?
I'm leaning on Robert, man. Yeah, but you never know with Israel. Israel's tough. I think he's obviously proved so many people who he is. But Robert he's got more heart than Kelvin. I think he's got just the same power. It's crisper. He's more creative. He's going to last longer. He's going to give more. It's going to be tough. Robert's the champ.
What's interesting, Luke, is we had Robert Whittaker on the program just before, and he was actually discussing the fact that he'd be open to a fight with Jon Jones. It's kind of the first time we've ever heard him sort of discuss it. What would you think if you saw Rob move up to light heavyweight and sort of try and get this fight with Jon Jones? Do you think he'd have much of a chance at winning that?
That's a tough fight to favor Rob, and I like the kid, but Jon's he's a tactical dude. He's got a lot of things that might work against him, but you never know. Rob's grown. came a long ways. He's got some wrestling abilities. Has surprised me.
That would be exciting though for you, right? The fight that never happened. Imagine if you guys met at 205.
There's a lot of fights that we could make in 205. Hey, as long as we're not cutting down to 85, hey, we can make anything happen at 205. I think everyone's venturing these days, you know. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna focus on what's ahead.
Wow. Well, you mentioned Jan before, so let's go there. Obviously, the fight is still a while away, but right now, everything that you know about Jan and with the proper time to prepare at 100%, how do you see your performance going at UFC 239? Obviously, we're still a couple of months away, but what do you see it sort of playing out like?
I see first or second round finish a Jan Blachowicz.
Is there sort of a competition there? Because obviously you mentioned Thiago Santos getting the win over him. Are you sort of trying to make a statement here to sort of, prove that you are better than the other guys that came from middleweight and are now fighting at 205 and are fighting Jon Jones?
No more statements made, man. I'm gonna go fight my fight. The statement will be made as long as I follow my plans and don't overthink it, don't overdo it. Just walk forward, put it on them, do what I do. Go back to a little older style of me. I think as the years went on of the weight cut, it kind of depleted me, and I had to rely more technically and get around. Now my strength is back, and I'm moving forward, and I'm putting it going straight through people. That's what I'm doing.
This sounds like vintage Luke Rockhold. You sound like the Rockhold of the Strikeforce days. The insanely hungry Rockhold chasing world titles.
I feel like Strikeforce challengers. I feel like I got my strength back from challengers. I'm fucking coming forward. I'm killing motherfuckers. That's what we're doing.
Well, I'll tell you what. We can't wait to see you return, Luke. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Last question. A question that I've been wondering since you've sort of mentioned it at a couple of interviews. How strong is really Robbie Lawler in the weight room? You've mentioned that he's an animal in there and you guys work out together. What kind of strength are we looking at here?
Rob, he can go for his size and what he's doing. He's the hardest worker in there. He believes in these weights. They do make a difference, but I'm more of the technical aspect. I like the martial arts side, but this man is in there every day, and He's got me in a few realms, but I'm catching up. I'm taking him out. Rob's an animal, though. You can see it. You can see the benefits of what he's doing. I mean, you haven't seen that before in Robin. And he threw around. He threw around Askren. Askren didn't ask for that fight again. You heard about that. So we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. But he's a tough motherfucker. It's for all of us.
I just want to know if he's going to teach you the FU that he did to Askren in the middle of that octagon, where he picked him up and suplexed him. Because I want to see Luke Rockhold do that. Yeah, on the UFC 239. Luke, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much, guys. Make sure to follow Luke on Twitter and Instagram at Luke Rockhold. Of course, one of the most exciting new prospects at light heavyweight, makes his light heavyweight debut UFC 239. Luke, thank you so much for coming onto the program, and let the Submission Radio reservation team know when we need to look at booking a restaurant for you, because we've got a whole team ready 24 hours a day, all year long.
My guys. July 6th. I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you so much, Luke. Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, dude.
Bye.